We apologize for that. We've been taking a break from PodBitz to focus our efforts on our first online course, which is cool. But the last few times we've been doing PodBitz, we actually go live first. We used to just jump right into the segment, but I think
that was causing a lot of stress.
Well, and also just this gives us a chance to actually say hi to you guys beforehand too, and to make sure all the technology is working, because we stream live on YouTube and we stream live on Twitter.
Yeah, so if you're here, say hi.
Yeah, if you're here on YouTube or on Twitter, I've got YouTube pulled up over here so I can comment on YouTube, and Veronica can comment and say hi on Twitter.
And also after our PodBitz session, we stayed here for a little longer so we can
we always
answer some questions and interact with you guys.
Yeah, we always do a short Q&A after the PodBitz, which is fun. So I think without any...
Let's get this rolling.
Let's get to it. Okay, so let's bust into it here. And
starting in
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, this is Veronica.
And I'm Studio Steve.
We are the Pod Sound School.
And this is PodBitz. PodBitz is a quick and easy way to digest the latest news and events in podcasting.
Learn about actionable tips to podcast like a beast.
Listen to our podcast recommendations.
And be in the know with what is up in the PSS community.
And we do it all live.
While the clock is ticking.
Unedited.
And raw.
So get those ears ready.
Crank those speakers up.
And let's dive in. Hey, welcome back to another bonus episode of the Pod Sound School podcast. This is PodBitz.
Hello. So for those of you who are just tuning in, we record PodBitz live on Twitter, Periscope, and also live on our YouTube channel, Pod Sound School. We post this episode later on our podcast, Pod Sound School too. And we also post the live video on our Facebook page, Pod Sound School, and on our YouTube channel for replayed in case you couldn't make it to this unannounced PodBitz session.
And the last few months we've been very busy, Pod Sound School busier than ever, to say the least. We've successfully launched our first course, our first online course, the Smart and Sexy Podcast Launch, and we have our first batch of really amazing students, and we're really excited about that. That has everything to do with the delay on these PodBitz episodes.
Our services are on demand too. We have more people asking for our services, so we're not complaining about that, but it's just been a little bit of stress.
But it's great though. You know, our business is growing, and it's all because of continued support from you checking in on us every week, and continuing to let us know that you like the content we're putting out. That's why we're still going strong. And
we're doing all this while homeschooling kids and keeping them entertained. We have 3 kids, so it's been a challenge. So if you have reached to us on social media or our YouTube channel and we haven't replied to your comments or your questions, I wanted to let you know that we're not ignoring you on purpose. We're going to get to those in due time.
Yeah, or just hit us up again with the same message, and we'll get to you then. It could have just been lost in the pile. So we're trying our best to juggle and to prioritize where we can, which is awesome. We're seeing a lot more of you lately, more than ever, really starting your podcast and staying connected with your people. And we couldn't be happier about that. And, because we're just all going through this time that we're going through right now is testing us all.
Yeah. Right? As one of my mentors says, instead of asking ourselves when this is going to be over, we should be asking ourselves, who are we going to be when this is over? And to those of you taking the leap of faith and launching your podcast and reaching out to your community and helping your community through this tough time and just finally getting that dream podcast off the ground, good work. Keep at it. This is going to be, amazing for you.
Yeah, it is. We can turn this frown upside down, right?
Yes.
We have some shout outs that we want to give real quick. Clay Horn, who we're now Twitter stalking, bought us a coffee.
Thank you, Clay.
Thank you so much. And he said, thanks for inspiration to get off my backside and create a podcast. How fun.
Evolving with Ida on our YouTube channel said, Thank you so much. This was one of the most detailed content I've ever seen since I started researching for my podcast. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for leaving these sweet messages. They mean the world to us.
They do. And without further ado,
This Week in Podcasting.
This Week in Podcasting.
Yes, so Google is migrating its Google Play users to YouTube Play. For now, Google is keeping both platforms, Google Play and YouTube Music, to give users plenty of time to switch to the new player. Google has added tools for listeners to transfer podcast subscriptions to Google Podcast and for podcasters to transfer their podcast to Google Podcast Manager. What does this mean for podcasters? Well, this means that your audience who are Android and web users will be able to transfer their podcast subscription from Google Play to Google Podcast, which is Google's dedicated podcast player. This requires some action from you. Maybe you got an email that says that Google is recommending podcast creators to transfer their podcasts to Google Podcast Manager. The platform is promising analytics of users' behaviors, listeners' habits, and making your podcast available for millions by claiming your podcast with the platform. We added a link so you can start migrating your podcast to Google Podcasts in the description of this episode.
Yes, and that will. I'm also going to talk a little bit more about that for this week's tip of the week in just a minute. So hang on for that. Another interesting thing this week in podcasting is Spotify removed the first coronavirus conspiracy podcast. Since there's so many coronavirus podcasts,
There's a lot of conspiracies around coronavirus.
And the episode was published by London Real and featured an interview with David Icke. And he was a coronavirus conspiracy theorist who claims that the coronavirus originated because the new 5G technology included in cell phones. So this is just kind of interesting, because podcasting is a free medium of expression. However, the podcast players can remove your episodes and even your entire podcast if they're in violations of the terms and conditions. And earlier this year, Spotify removed a podcast over trademark disputes, does that on a sporadic basis. So you just want to, when in doubt, you want to make sure that your content is, review the terms and conditions to avoid the situation from happening to you.
Yeah, especially when your podcast or one of your episodes touches on something that it's mainstream and that is causing a lot of controversy around the world, you would think, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Luminary. Do you guys remember Luminary? The ads were all over social media. Luminary is a podcast subscription service giving you access to ad-free premium shows from journalists, TV hosts, and celebrities. Well, the company is struggling to meet its goals, and it's been losing $3.5 million a month. They only have 80,000 subscribers so far. Luminary was promised to be the Netflix of podcasting, but they have to compete with Spotify and the other podcast players who provide access to podcasts for free. The company has caught spending on marketing and new shows and stuff. Let's see how this
turns out for them.
Because I like the idea of them being the Netflix of podcasting.
I like that too. It's just tricky, and they have a lot of really good shows on Luminary. And so, but it's hard. I haven't sprung I don't know how much it is.
I don't know either, but there's a lot of experimentation and a lot of podcasting is so new that we don't know how things are going to play out.
Yeah, but that's a little hard.
This week in your queue.
Okay, this week in your queue. For my podcast recommendation this week, I found this really cool podcast called Rite of Passage, and it's write as in how you would write on a piece of paper.
Right.
Yes,
you
Rite
can't see
of
my
Passage.
hand, obviously.
It's a really great educational podcast, and what I really like about it, it's by David Perell, is that it's almost like an online course. He put 21 episodes out all at once, so you could just go and binge listen to them. And you learn a variety of deep dive topics about the process of writing. And it's a show for anyone who wants to use their writing to turn themselves into a magnet for people, ideas, and opportunities.
Yeah, they're short episodes, and you can get going with your copy like within an hour and a half, 2 hours. It'll be good.
It's pretty cool. It's a pretty good podcast to check out for writing.
It's a good recommendation. My recommendation is the Parent Trapped podcast. And this is the parent survival guide through the coronavirus pandemic. Each week, the host, Anne-Marie Baldonado, interviews authors, educators, and celebrities for tips and stories to help parents navigate this time with their kids, from juggling work and homeschooling to family movies suggestion. So if you are a parent like us who is struggling through this tough time, first, I want to give you a virtual hug.
Please.
I'm with you. And second, listen to this podcast. It's really good.
I need as many virtual hugs as I can get. These kids, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Good luck to everybody for that. And so, yeah. Oh.
Tip of the week.
Tip of the week.
Till I tell you everything.
I forgot what we were doing. It's been so long. So, as we mentioned with Google, the tip of the week this week is to really get your podcast over to Google. Google Manager is what they call it. And it's really easy to do that. If you missed the email that they sent, all you have to do is Google Podcast Manager, and the link will populate that you go to for that. And they walk you through the process. There's a Get Started button, and then you just put in your RSS feed. Now, some podcasters are still very confused about what an RSS feed is, even though their podcast has been going for a really long time. An RSS feed is very easy to find no matter what host you're using. And actually all you have to do for that is to Google like how to find my RSS feed using Simplecast or any of the podcast directories, Podbean or Buzzsprout or Anchor, anything like that. And you'll find it's very easy to find your RSS feed. You just copy that and paste it in there and you're good to go. This is really cool because this just shows more and more like every week it seems like Google is doing more advancements for podcasting, which is, I think Google's going to be just such a powerful platform for us.
Well, you just said it like multiple times. If you don't know Google, you know?
Yeah, if you don't know Google, right?
I mean, Google is like the gods of our generation. You need to be on Google and you need to do that for your podcast.
Yeah, and Google bots are starting to crawl through our podcast, and eventually they're going to start populating podcast episodes for the answer to people's questions. So when somebody says, how do I fix my swimming pool?
Then if I have a podcast
if you have a podcast
about that,
oh,
how cool.
It'd be really cool. So, and with our last PodBitz, we mentioned that Google is now on iPhones, Google Podcasts on iPhones. And well, there you go, guys. That sums it up for this episode of PodBitz.
So if you enjoyed this episode of PodBitz or any other podcast episode, please take a screenshot of that episode and post it on your Instagram stories and tag the Pod Sound School. I'll reshare that on my stories. I just want to know like who are enjoying our podcast, our content. Also, rate our podcast and review our podcast at ratethispodcast.com/Pod Sound School. Also, if you want to take your podcast up a notch, then make sure that you join our premium content at podsoundschool.com/premium.
Yes.
Anything else?
No, that's it. And if you want to get on the wait list for the next time we launch our podcast, just visit podcastingsmart.com.
Our podcast course.
Our podcast course, yep. And happy casting, guys.
Happy casting, sexies.
Laboratories functionally designed for the student use. The new miracle of modern tools for instruction.
And we're back for our Q&A session, our post-PodBitz Q&A session.
It seems like we have one person.
We have one person there.
Maybe
and
me.
We have a person here. We have a bunch of people, a couple of people over here. Hey, how's it going? Clean Cut Audio.
Hello.
Hey, Tom, how are you doing? Good riddance. Let them die. I know, right? Thanks for tuning in. Then
Let
we've got.
what die?
I don't know. I'm thinking he's talking about the podcast that got taken off of Spotify.
Oh, or our kids.
Oh yeah, or we haven't been fantasizing about our kids being set ablaze or thrown in the middle of the street or out a window or anything like that. That's the only thing that keeps you alive, right?
When you hear the word mom.
Oh, and Adon V says, I'm the most beautiful girl. Thanks, Adon.
Oh, you are the most beautiful girl.
Thank you.
My girl.
So how's everybody doing? We usually stick around after our stream here for...
Yeah. We're not going to set our kids on fire. We didn't say that.
No, we didn't say that. Don't worry, I'll edit that little part out of this video. But yeah, so PodBitz was a Wednesday thing, but now Wednesdays is a very critical day for our online course. So we're sort of configuring when we do PodBitz. It'll probably be Fridays, I'm guessing now.
Yeah.
Now that we've sort of caught up with our workload. But that's a good time to come get a hold of us and ask us any questions.
But that's a good thing. We tell our students, we tell the podcasters in our community to be on a regular schedule with their podcast because that's important for the listeners. But you know what? At the end of the day, we're humans, and we have a lot of things going on right now, and the world's coming to an end. Just kidding. But yeah, we're parents. There are so many roles we need to fulfill that if you don't beat yourself up because you skipped an episode. Just keep showing up for your people. Keep showing up for your community. If you couldn't get an episode out, then show up on social media. Just make sure that you are. What matters is that they know that you care about them. And that you bring up the content, the good content, even if you skip a week.
And I always say transparency is trending. So just be yourself, just be honest and open with who you are. People really like that. They really relate to that a lot, which is good. We have Ashik says, hey guys, if I wanted to start a podcast, which should I start with? Oh man, a good place to start is with doing a little market research, I think.
We have a lot of videos.
We have a lot of videos on our channel here.
On our channel, market research.
Market research meaning think about what you want to start and topic research, right? And just start thinking about what kind of things you might have expertise in. So like, what do I know a lot about? What am I most interested in? What can I see myself talking about for hours and hours and hours on end? But if you already have a topic in mind, which you probably do if you want to start a podcast, then I would recommend the next place to start is to start looking at competitor research, or we like to call it peer research, because there's no competitors in podcasts. We're really all
peer
friends.
analysis.
Peer analysis. And just Google the type of podcast. So let's say you're going to do a podcast about swimming pools or swimming pool maintenance. Then you could type in swimming pool maintenance podcasts and see if anything pops up. It'd be really crazy if something popped up for that. But, or, like we always use the example of tango with Veronica. If you want to do a podcast about tango dance, put in podcast about tango or a podcast about dancing. And that'll give you a good place to start with. Just get the creative juices flowing. And then maybe you might even find a place in the podcasting world that your voice is really needed, right? Or at least some good checklist of things you would like to accomplish in your own podcast, and maybe things that you think you could do better than what your peers are doing.
Yeah, that's a question we get a lot, and that's the reason why that's the first module in our course is how to walk our students through the process of finding a topic.
Oh, it looks like we have Sassy Rare Breed says, I'm late. Thanks for the great information.
Yeah. You're welcome. Well, you can watch this. We're going to post this on our YouTube channel later for replay.
This goes back to replay once it gets done processing, and then it would get cut down. So it's like 18, it'll be 20 minutes. Eventually it gets cut down to 13 for just the PodBitz segment, which is fun. And we're going to resume doing this weekly to the best of our ability. Since you're late, we have had a little trouble sticking with our PodBitz. We had to prioritize.
Yeah, we look a little wide. It's because we were playing with backdrops a little bit. And
how come you look whiter than me?
I don't know, but I'm a Latina.
She doesn't look that white.
I'm brown.
She's brown.
I look like Michael Jackson.
I like it. I'm kind of down with the Michael Jackson look, but I'm kind of extra pink too. Am I? Am I very pink right now? I just can't get it right, Anything I try. Yeah, so Sassy, before we take off, if you have any questions for us, we'd be happy to answer them. You guys can also find us. We're streaming on Twitter as well too. So.
Yeah, and also if you have any questions, get a hold of me over at Instagram. We have to leave. Our son has guitar.
Oh, we do? Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, our son does have a virtual guitar lesson. We have to leave. But real quick, I think we have time for Smith.
You are so welcome. Thank you for showing up and for sharing your time with us.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Sorry, I'm blind.
I wouldn't know how to pronounce your name. Adejibola.
Adejibola.
It's probably Ajibola, right? Or Ajibola. So real quick, we had a question on Twitter, which was, do you pull the RSS feed off this and use it as a podcast after you record live on Periscope? That's a cool question. No, actually, we record this. I'm using Wirecast, and so Wirecast allows me to send it to YouTube and Twitter and send it to record it as a file. But then the audio that you're hearing from us is actually passing through Pro Tools. So right after we get done recording this, Veronica puts the video stuff together, and I pop over onto Pro Tools, and I don't really do much. I just sweeten up the sound a little bit and then just throw it onto our RSS feed or upload it to our podcast host, if that makes sense. So, oh yeah, you should. Thanks a lot, Ashik.
You should.
There's tons of good videos there that will help you a lot with your podcast. So, but yeah, like Veronica mentioned, we do have to get our son into his guitar lessons.
Yes. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. Next week, we're going to see you guys on Friday for PodBitz. But have a good weekend. I hope you guys are all staying healthy and safe and sane. Right?
Sane, yes.
Especially if you have the children, right? I mean,
double up on the medication.
Yeah, or the booze, or whatever you've got to do, whatever you have to do to survive.